Hi everyone, Peter here from Flow High Performance, and in this video we will cover how habits and behaviour can be manipulated to assist with fat loss. In the previous videos from this series, we have primarily discussed the theory of how to maximize fat loss. This is essential information to understand because it describes how fat loss can be achieved from a physiological standpoint. However, this doesn't show trainees how fat loss can be achieved from a practical standpoint. Therefore, this video will explore some strategies that can help trainees adhere to the requirements of an effective fat loss protocol. Before we get into these strategies, let's quickly recap the fundamental requirements to maximize fat loss. First, we need a calorie deficit over time in order to lose weight. Of this weight lost, we want to maximize the proportion of fat lost and minimize losses in muscle mass. This can be achieved by performing an effective resistance training routine and maintaining a high daily protein intake during the calorie deficit. For more details about the theory of fat loss, be sure to check out the last 4 videos from the Fat Loss Fundamentals series. So what do we mean when referring to habits and behaviour? Well, this is quite a general topic, but it essentially refers to a trainee's daily routine in terms of food intake and exercise. Everyone has different lifestyles and schedules, but there is generally always room to improve the habits and behaviours in everyone's daily life to help with the goal of fat loss. Let's now cover some potentially harmful behaviours for fat loss and some generally effective behaviours that can help with fat loss goals. First, we will cover some potentially harmful behaviours. These behaviours are not inherently bad or wrong, but when taken to an extreme level, they can make the fat loss process an unhealthy endeavour. Furthermore, some of these behaviours may actually be necessary at times, especially if a trainee is trying to get to an extremely lean physique. However, trainees should be aware that becoming extremely lean is not generally a sustainable way to live for most people, and it is generally only maintained for a short duration of time. Let's now get into some potentially detrimental habits and behaviours. First is excessive food weighing. This refers to weighing almost every food on a scale in order to track it with ultra accuracy. Physically weighing food is definitely the most accurate way to quantify calorie and macronutrient intake, although it comes with a cost. Food weighing is ultimately an inconvenient task that can make tracking tedious and frustrating if conducted excessively. While some foods need to be weighed, many foods come in pre-portioned serving sizes, so they don't need to be weighed. Food weighing may need to be more meticulous at certain times, but for the most part, excessive food weighing is just not a sustainable way to eat for most people. Therefore, trainees should try to minimize food weighing to make quantifying calorie and macronutrient intake more convenient. Another potentially harmful behavior during weight loss periods is the act of avoiding social events. Trainees may avoid certain social events at the expense of being rigid with their diet practices. Social occasions often involve high-calorie foods that are usually very difficult to track, which can cause an increase in planned calorie intake. As a strategy to prevent this from occurring, trainees may avoid certain social occasions. Avoiding social events is not directly harmful to fat loss goals. In fact, it may actually be a useful strategy to maximize fat loss. However, it is probably a mentally unhealthy approach to take. If trainees limit social connections at the expense of fat loss, then they are probably doing more harm than good. Instead, trainees should develop behaviours and habits to learn how to continue their fat loss regime while still being able to be social with friends and family. This may mean increasing calorie intake slightly on these days, but as long as you are in a net calorie deficit across the week, then you will still be on track. Once again, this is also context specific. There may be certain times where trainees may need to limit social activity because they want to get very lean for a certain event. In this case, trainees may make the conscious decision to limit social events, but it should be understood that this is a temporary strategy and probably not a healthy long-term strategy to live by. So they were some potentially harmful behaviours that could present during a fat loss diet. Let's now cover some beneficial behaviours and habits that can make the dieting process more effective and sustainable. The first is to ensure you are losing weight at an appropriate rate. A more aggressive calorie deficit will make weight loss faster, while a less aggressive deficit will make weight loss slower. However, as long as you are in a calorie deficit over time, weight loss will occur. The rate of weight loss will just be different. A slower rate of weight loss is generally easier to manage than a faster rate. This is because your daily calorie intake will be higher, so the diet can be slightly more flexible. Furthermore, slower rates of weight loss generally seem to promote greater muscle retention or growth compared with faster weight loss. Like we established in the first video from this series, there is no minimum rate of weight loss, but a maximum of around 1% of body weight loss per week shouldn't be breached in most cases. Another behavioural strategy to assist with the fat loss process is to have a consistent food intake each day. This means eating the same number of meals per day, eating at roughly the same time each day, and eating similar foods each day. This can limit the decision-making process of what foods will fit into your diet each and every single day. Excessive thought about food intake can be mentally draining and can often lead to an unplanned increase in calorie intake. If you have found a few different meals that can be eaten for breakfast, lunch, and dinner that fit into your calorie intakes, then these should build a core of your daily food intake. This makes food selection an almost automated process that requires very little decision making. The next beneficial strategy is to ensure protein intake is adequate. As we discussed in the previous videos, protein intake has numerous beneficial effects during the fat loss process. This includes helping to preserve muscle mass, maintaining basal metabolic rate, providing a higher food satiety, and increasing the thermic effect of food. Therefore, it would be a good idea to ensure each meal has a solid portion of lean protein sources to achieve a minimum of around 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. The next strategy to assist fat loss is through food volume. Food volume refers to the amount of calories consumed per unit of weight of food. This could also be thought of as the calorie density of food. For example, a croissant has around 406 calories per 100 grams, while white bread has around 265 calories per 100 grams. So to consume the same total amount of calories, we would be able to eat more white bread compared with a croissant. We can use this to our advantage during a weight loss period by consuming more low-calorie density foods. This will allow us to consume a higher volume of food without a higher calorie intake. While this is certainly not going to eliminate hunger completely, it can certainly mitigate it during a calorie deficit. Therefore, it is probably going to be beneficial for trainees to focus on consuming more high-volume foods with a low calorie density, such as fruits and vegetables. Another beneficial habit to assist the dieting process is to ensure general physical activity levels are reasonably high. This refers to all forms of movement and exercise, including dedicated training, NEAT, and recreational exercise. This is more of a long-term habit that should be built over months and years to promote a healthy lifestyle regardless of calorie intake. While this is obviously a great way to maintain good general health, it can also assist the fat loss process. More general physical activity will help trainees expend more energy throughout the day, allowing trainees to diet on slightly higher calories. This can be quantified using a pedometer or a step tracker to help trainees track their physical activity levels. And the last strategy that can assist the fat loss process is to implement maintenance periods during the diet if necessary. This refers to increasing calories back to maintenance levels to maintain their current body weight. This can get trainees out of a deficit to consolidate their new lower body weight and the new habits and behaviours they have established. This gives the trainee time to become accustomed to the new body composition and learn to regulate all physiological processes. This can be done if trainees are starting to struggle with the diet and failing to adhere consistently, or if some event is approaching which will make the dieting process unmanageable for a short period of time. This can be done as many times as the trainee likes, but it should be understood that this will ultimately extend the fat loss timeframe. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you got something out of this video. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already.